And welcome back to WRMN 1410 AM, the morning show. We are joined with some very special guests. You may know them from the podcast Somebody Knows Something. Detectives Andrew Houghton, Detective Matt Vartanian, and of course, Sue Castle.
Yeah, I had to stay in. You guys know what a fangirl I was about all of this going on and how interested I was. So I said I absolutely have to sit in, at least for the beginning, because kudos to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Seriously, how much work and time and money and effort went in, and you guys really did it. And I'm so proud to have been like a very small, tiny part of it being on our little radio station. So thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Glad to have you guys. For those who don't know, episode 8 has just dropped, and there's a giant break in the case. Very exciting. If you haven't read the newspaper, a lot of news about it. So, yeah, let's just talk about it a little bit before we listen to it. We'll listen to the whole episode here and then kind of have our thoughts on it afterwards. So I guess the first question would be, how's the week been since?
Yeah, it's been the last week and a
Hard to
half.
describe. It's been a very different week to what we're normally used to.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our time has been spent. We have been going out on the street doing different things, but a lot of it's been research and in the office, and then to be out on the boat for 2 days and in and out of the coroner's office with the family. You know, we made 3 or 4 different trips to Sycamore in the last week, so it's been a lot of out of the office. You know, go kind of things. I think this week we're finally getting to take a breath and kind of slow back down.
So is this investigation like considered over?
No.
Or you're still, I didn't
Yeah,
think
it's
so.
still considered.
You still are looking
yeah,
and
it's still
open.
considered an active or an open
I know
investigation.
people were asking.
Yeah,
so.
we still have a lot of work that we have to do. We have work with the coroner's office that still needs to be done. Stuff with the vehicle as well. By no means, we still want to be able to get Karen's family the answers that they deserve if we're able to. We may not be able to do that. That's the reality. But we want to definitely
or at
try
least
to do that.
as much as you can.
Yeah. Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
piece the puzzle together.
Yeah,
as
by
much
no
as you
means is
can.
it over just because we found her.
Good.
Yep.
All right. So guys, how many episodes are we planning on doing now?
I think we have probably 4 more. We'll probably do about 12 episodes. This coming week, we're going to sit down with Chaos Divers. That was the group that came up and helped us not only locate Karen's car, but also assess it, secure it, and then successfully remove it.
You'll be here Friday for that, correct?
They're going to be on the Chiefs radio show with them on Friday, and then we're
Okay.
going to have them on the podcast and speak with them
Okay.
about kind of our experience with them for our 9th episode. We're kind of hoping our 10th episode will be a little bit more about the legal aspects of the case, some of the new information we have from the coroner's office and things like that. And then we want to come back with at least an 11th episode and kind of talk to the family, the friends, kind of bring it full circle. There's a couple other little pieces of things that we may also try to touch on. So I think we're planning on 11 to 12, maybe 13 episodes still before we move on to something different.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all those the ideas of the episodes. Having produced the last podcast and all of them, I guess. Just hearing about how Chaos Divers carry themselves and just everything that that they did to help bring Karen home is just really, really commendable, and they seem like a great group of people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if people don't know, Ben has been producing all of our episodes. So Ben's been mixing our episodes for us. We record with him, and then he's been adding our sound, adding our music, all those different things. He's been helping with getting people to read, you know, different portions, because we said voice actors, but basically different people in the community have come in and read statements or letters for us. So we have a little bit of a different sound to them. It's not just Matt and I reading everything. So we really appreciate everything Ben's done. With
Thank you, Ben.
Our episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great pleasure. Being that the podcast has gotten so many listens lately, people kind of go up to me and they'll say, like, they'll start heaping praise on me, and I just want you guys to know, I'm forwarding it on. You guys are the real heroes here, going and doing all the real work, and Chaos Divers and really everybody involved in the case.
What an emotional roller coaster, I'm sure. Every day.
Yeah,
had to
I mean,
be
our
draining,
goal.
ecstatic.
Yeah,
Like,
it definitely has been an emotional roller coaster. You know, our goal, kind of like when we talked with you originally, was we wanted to be able to get answers for the family and find Karen. You know, that was the reason we did the podcast. It is really an incredible medium to be able to get and reach more people. You know, the original idea was maybe there was somebody in another state that was there that night that remembered something, and by hearing us on the podcast, it jogged that memory, and then they come forward with the information. You know, people sometimes don't want to share information with the police, and they have the reasons for that, and that's totally understandable. But using something like the podcast is just an incredible tool to be able to reach more people.
Oh, man. And we kept telling people, even the smallest bit of information, you may not think significant, but it could be very significant.
Yep.
So even if you think you know something really small, don't be afraid to share it because it could be an integral part of what you're looking for.
Yeah,
Even people calling us and saying, hey, we lived in the neighborhood, or giving us tips. Hey, we lived in the same neighborhood on Lovell Street or that area. We would take Duncan Avenue. That was a known route that we would take. It's probably something she would have taken. People talking about there's areas of that road that would flood when we were kids. Like getting that type of information from people are things we would have not gotten had they not contacted us because they'd either heard the podcast or seen some of the media coverage we had because we were doing the podcast. So that really was helpful, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, the interaction is really what makes the podcast. Any podcast or any show or any radio show, anything like that. You're going for that interaction, and this one is just a little bit different in a good way because they're helping your own community. You're helping your own community, and just to my mind, I'm not the biggest in the genre true crime. I'm not aware, though, of too many cases. I know, ironically, I was listening to the station. We play Dragnet, and they say before that these are actual cases that you're going through and are solved as it happens. Yeah. And I'm not aware of any podcasts that are so quickly turned over like this.
Yeah, we thought this case was unique because there was so much information that was out there previously with how long she was missing. And we truly felt that we could share everything about this case. We didn't know what had happened, where her car was, where she was. So we felt very comfortable being able to put all that information out there to the public to get those, answers of the information that we needed. We may not be able to do that with future cases because, if we look at a cold case homicide or something else, there's legitimate information you can't share because of the case. But this case, we had no idea. So we felt comfortable doing that. And we always wanted to be genuine when we did the podcast. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about our police department. It was about Karen and getting answers for her family and having the community help do that.
And you guys handled it so empathetically and with such grace. Yeah. Everybody did. It was really nice to see that. And when they interviewed her brother, and he wasn't upset, not that it would change anything, but I think it had a lot to do with the way it was handled. It was handled very respectfully. Like it really was important to find her, and you guys let that be known. That was the most important thing.
Thank you. I will say about the Sheepers family, when we delivered that information last week to them, they're just amazing people, I'll say that. But they actually asked us how we were doing. And I don't know, I'm still shocked and blown away by that because that is just the
But that's
the
a
quality
reflection of you guys as well.
Well, that's the quality of human beings that they are. It truly is. I'm just honored to be able to have known them, and be able to get the answers that they deserve.
And we really wanted to walk that kind of tightrope of making the podcast entertaining enough that people would listen to it, but not being exploitative of the family or people in the community or of her ex-boyfriend or fiance or friends. So it was kind of like, okay, we need to make sure that we're very open to talking about all these different things that happened and these different theories, but not putting our thumb on the scale and saying, hey, this is what we think happened, or this person did this, just kind of saying, hey, this is one theory. We're going to talk about that theory.
Yeah. And there were a lot of theories. That was the thing going through the podcast. There were many, many theories. Yeah. So to narrow it down and get it done, that was very impressive, gentlemen. Very impressive.
Yeah. And of course, like we're saying, top of mind is the Sheepers family. And just, giving them the peace of mind and, just in general, the success of the podcast and everything with the newspapers and the how much attention it's gotten. It's it's great how much attention that it's gotten, and I like to think of it as far as for entertainment. Obviously, I didn't know Karen, but you're trying to make something that she may have liked or may have been proud of. To be a part of a good legacy.
Yeah, I think going into this week, the family's kind of trying to take a breath, and they do want to have some sort of memorial service. And we've told them that, at least from our perspective, that's up to them, whatever they want to do. If they want to have media there, if they want to have police there, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. So we're hoping that people in the community we'll let them do whatever they want to do. If they want to just do a private burial and a private ceremony and that's it, that's their decision, and
Yeah.
people need to respect that.
Yeah, I think respect is the word, definitely. Well, what do you guys say? Should we get into episode 8 here?
Sure.
We've
Yeah.
got, well, this will take us through the bottom of the hour, and then we'll come back with about 10 minutes left and give our thoughts on the rest of it. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Again, this is WRMN 1410, and this is Somebody Knows Something, the podcast, cold case podcast with Elgin's police cold case detectives.
This podcast is based on information sourced primarily from police and media reports, but certain names and other identifying details may have been changed or altered for privacy and security reasons. While the events and cases discussed are based on real investigations, some aspects may be simplified for time and for narrative purposes. Voice actors have been used to read from statements or documents. All information presented is intended solely to inform and raise awareness. Hosts may discuss theories regarding the cases examined in this podcast, but such discussions are not intended to and should not be considered by the listener to be legal conclusions. All persons discussed are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion is advised.
This is Chief Anna Lally. Welcome to Somebody Knows Something, a podcast from the Elgin Police Department's Cold Case Unit. In this podcast, we will shed new light on cold cases in the city of Elgin by sharing untold details and by encouraging anyone with information to come forward. You will come along with real cold case detectives as they investigate active cold cases in real time and seek justice for the victims and closure for their families. We believe that the Elgin Police Department and our community can work together to bring closure to cold cases, because we know that, in these cases, somebody knows something.
Welcome to the Elgin Police Department Cold Case Podcast, Somebody Knows Something. I'm Detective Andrew Houghton.
And I'm Detective Matt Vartanian. This season, we have spent the last 7 episodes discussing the case of Karen Sheepers, who disappeared along with her canary yellow 1980 Toyota Celica on April 16th of 1983. And in this episode, we are going to detail a massive break in this case.
That's right, Matt. This episode is a really special one for us, for Karen's family, and for the entire community of Elgin and surrounding communities. I know that last episode, our listeners came along with us as we identified the routes that Karen Sheepers would have likely taken on April 16th of 1983 if she did leave PM Bentley's bar and head either home or to her boyfriend Terry's house. We drove those routes under nearly identical conditions, and we identified multiple bodies of water along both routes. Because we had no record of any extensive water searches, we felt it was important not only to use the best equipment, but also to get a group of expert divers in sonar, diving, recovery, and extraction of vehicles. Specifically vehicles which might contain human remains, as we sought to finally bring Karen home.
Obviously, finding a vehicle in a body of water, especially one that might contain human remains, was a huge step. But once a vehicle is located, it takes skilled divers with experience to navigate currents, the visibility, and potentially dangerous conditions to confirm, assess, and then finally remove that vehicle from the water. We wanted to be prepared to remove any vehicle we found in a manner that kept it as intact as possible as well. So the team we needed had to have extensive experience not only locating and assessing a vehicle, but also removing it as well. From the beginning, our goal has always been to find Karen, not just her car. We even had a deputy coroner from the Kane County Coroner's Office, Gabby Allison, out with us for the duration of our entire search in the event that we did locate any remains, so that we could get the ball rolling immediately if we found anything.
As it turns out, we found the exact team that we needed in an Illinois-based nonprofit group called Chaos Divers. We're going to talk about them extensively in our next episode, but before we even get into the nuts and bolts of what happened this week, Matt, we both want to thank them for everything they did in this case. We can't express our thanks to them enough. Their expertise was crucial for this investigation. To Jacob Grubbs, Lindsay Busick, and Mike McFerrin, we owe you a debt we can never repay you. So thank you for everything that you were able to do on this case. You all deserve a huge amount of credit for this case, and we would not have been able to have the outcome we did without the professionalism, resources, experience, and the toughness of your entire team.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. Just a huge thank you to you guys out there from Chaos Divers. Our entire experience with you guys at Chaos Divers, from planning to execution to all the post-action stuff, has just been truly amazing. You guys are really awesome people. I think we are just still both in a state of shock with just how awesome and just professional you guys are and what you guys do. Well, after spending all day on the river on March 24th, 2025 with Chaos Divers, we were, quite honestly, feeling pretty deflated. We had literally scanned from the Kimball Street Dam in the south to just south of Illinois Route 72 in the north. That is nearly 5 nautical miles of river, and to completely scan the entire riverbed was an all-day project on the boat. During the search, we found 2 vehicles throughout the day, and Mike McFerrin, the diver for our search, dove them multiple times in water that was around 40 degrees with less than 6 inches of visibility. One vehicle initially seemed promising, with a headlamp that was similar to Karen's car, but after multiple dives on that car, Mike told us that it was basically a debris field, and with other pieces that he was able to recover, we were able to conclusively say it was not Karen's car. The second vehicle was also clearly not her vehicle based on the pieces that Mike could find and the color and the size of that second car. That car, like the first, was also not intact.
That was when we got lucky, or had divine intervention, or whatever you want to call it. We headed back to the launch site to leave, even calling our command post to tell them we thought we were almost done for the day, and that Matt and I needed someone to come pick us up. As we traveled south from the I-90 bridge, Jacob, who was driving the boat, and Lindsay, who was using the sonar equipment along with him, both decided we needed to circle back in the same area where Mike had dove on the first 2 cars. They just wanted to be sure one last time that we weren't missing anything. We had found a pipe, a large tractor tire, and other debris that they had tagged, so we basically went back and rechecked each item before we left. That's when Jacob saw something else about 150 to 160 feet west of the eastern shoreline in the Fox River. He and Lindsay confirmed that it was a vehicle on its roof, and it was absolutely a smaller car, making it our 3rd vehicle today. This time, we found exactly what we've been searching for from the beginning of this investigation.
We have covered from the Kimball Street Dam all the way up to basically Route 72. We have found 3 cars today, 2 of which we have ruled out, and the 3rd one we are working on now. Diver is back up, so he's got a license plate, so we're going to read off here in a minute.
You know, Matt, I can't even describe what it was like when Mike broke through the surface and held up that license plate. We were both in the back of the boat, maybe 40 feet away, and we could see the plate upside down and in reverse. We kind of looked at each other, and I think we both knew that we thought we saw an X and a P on that plate, so we literally ran to the front of the boat. Then Mike read the plate out loud to us and handed it to you. I looked down at the mud-covered plate, and we both visually confirmed it, and that license plate was the one that we knew by heart, XP8919.
Is that it?
919? Yeah, I think that's it.
XP 1919?
Yes.
That's our car. That's her.
XP.
It was yellow son of a bitch. That is our car.
I'm going to try not to get emotional.
As soon as I saw the XP.
Thank you. So, we do have a plate. It is X-ray P Paul 8919. X Paul 8919. That is her car. He says it is a yellow vehicle. So I think we got it.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some giddiness, right? It was like you see the plate and you're like, wait, I see an X, I see a P, I see some 8s, and I'm like, we looked at each other, we're like, yeah, that's it, right? That's the plate. Once we got the plate to the shore, we confirmed the plate one more time because I think we just both kind of needed that second, double confirmation. I mean, quite honestly, we were both still kind of in a state of shock, I think. Then we immediately called Susan, Karen's sister.
Matt and I had coordinated with Liz, Gary, Dale, and Susan prior to this dive, and they knew when we were diving and that maybe potentially all week. We had decided that our plan was to call and talk to Liz every night at the end of each day. That way, if we called her, it would just be a pre-planned routine. Liz is 90 and has been waiting for nearly 42 years to find out this information. We didn't want to call her and have it be some false sense of hope or something like that. So we wanted to tell her in person when we actually found something.
We coordinated with Susan and decided that if we recovered anything, our plan was to call Susan and tell her so that she could travel out with us to Sycamore and we could all meet in person to tell Liz that we had found her daughter's car. When we called Susan and broke the news, I think it was a mix of both shock and relief. As you can imagine, she was very emotional. I can't even imagine what it must have been like for her and her family, but hopefully through this investigation, we can finally give them some answers and some closure.
Yeah, I can't even describe what the day was like for all of them and for us. Susan let Liz know that we wanted to talk to her and just filled the family in on kind of the first day of the search. We kind of tried to soft sell it to her, I guess, basically. And so we all drove out to Sycamore. When we arrived, Susan told us that Liz was cleaning the kitchen and doing some dishes because she knew she had some guests arriving and she wanted the house to be presentable. I just have to say that Liz has been just amazing to us. The whole family has been. They really make you feel like part of the family. I mean, our last visit, Liz sent Matt and I both home with some of her famous Blarney stones that she makes every March for her friends and family. They're small pieces of pound cake that she bakes and frosts and then rolls in peanuts using a hand grinder that she's had for years. Liz made these for Karen when Karen was a kid and made them even before Karen was born. It's just been amazing to feel like we're part of the family when we deal with them.
Yeah, Liz is just an amazing, strong woman. She's 90 years old and still insists on still mowing her own lawn, and they have almost 5 acres of property. To be able to find this car and human remains for her and her family have just been really such an honor and a privilege for both of us.
Looking back in preparation for an episode, we were planning to go to Karen's apartment and her childhood home. So we had visited with Gary and Liz multiple times at the house over the last few months. We had seen Karen's childhood bedroom. We had looked through a dresser from her old apartment. We'd even looked at her piano that still sits in the piano room alongside a number of photographs of the family, which include a prominent photograph of Karen in the middle of the wall as a baby and another above it with her as an adult. Gary pulled up some chairs and we sat down at the same kitchen table that we'd been discussing Karen and the case for the last few months with the family over our last few visits.
When we told Liz and Gary that we believed we had located Karen's vehicle in the Fox River and confirmed that the vehicle was a yellow car with her license plate, the family was, as you would imagine, understandably very emotional. Gary told us that when Susan called, Liz told him that she knew exactly why we were coming out to see her. We had found her daughter. It was an emotional experience for all of us, and I know I speak for Andrew as well in saying that being able to give the family this news was really why we do these cases. That's what it is all about. We want to provide answers and closure, but finding Karen's car was just step one of a multi-step process. We weren't done yet. In a case like this, obviously we finally had the car, but the question had remained, was this 100% Karen's car and were Karen's remains inside the vehicle still? Given the time of day, the lighting conditions, and the fact that our amazing diver Mike had made multiple dives in the river in frigid and fairly windy conditions, we made the decision to regroup for day 2 to search further in hopes of finally finding Karen and bringing her home. So on March 25th, we mobilized a number of resources to do just that. Obviously, Andrew and I were on scene to continue this search along with Chaos Divers, but we want to mention a number of other groups that assisted us with this recovery.
That's right. We utilized Elgin Police Department's drone team, evidence response team, major investigations unit, the patrol division, technical investigations division, basically all the resources that our department has to work on this case. We wanted to secure the extraction site and prepare to collect evidence on this case. We had decided from the get-go that this would be treated like any other crime scene. That meant drone video, photographs, evidence collection, 3D scans of the car, basically everything that we would do on any active investigation, including a homicide, as if it had happened today.
Yeah, Andrew. Basically, we wanted to treat this car like a crime scene until proven otherwise. Now that we had the car, it was time to slow everything down and do this very methodically and do it the right way. Kind of just take a pause. So we coordinated our removal plan for the vehicle and potential remains with the Kane County Coroner's Office, the Elgin Fire Department, and Redmond's Towing. By midday on March 25th, we were ready to get the car out and take the next step on this case. But that meant a lot of coordination and a lot more dives.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Anna Lally, Chief of Police of the Elgin, Illinois Police Department. I am joined by the lead cold case detectives Andrew Houghton and Matt Vartanian, chaos divers Jacob Grubbs, Lindy Busick, and Mike McFerrin, Kane County Coroner Monica Silva, members of her staff, and the Elgin Fire Department. Yesterday's search of the Fox River was conducted because as a re-examination of the case progressed, the theories of what happened to Karen included that Karen's vehicle could potentially be in the Fox River. With recent significant advancements in technology, chaos divers were contacted to assist us in conducting a more thorough search to fully explore and exhaust this theory. With the use of sonar technology, chaos divers located several sites of interest in the Fox River that were explored. At 4:42 p.m. yesterday, at a location northwest of the Slade Avenue boat launch, a vehicle was identified. A diver then conducted a further assessment of the vehicle and was able to locate a license plate, XP8919, which then matched the license plate of Karen's yellow 1980 Toyota Celica. This morning, plans to safely remove the vehicle from the Fox River will be formulated and executed in conjunction with the expertise and assistance of chaos divers, the Elgin Fire Department, and the Kane County Coroner's Office. The scene is considered a crime scene and access will be limited to only police and fire personnel. Once the vehicle has been safely removed from the Fox River, a determination will be made if any human remains are in the vehicle. That determination will be made by the Kane County Coroner's Office. We will provide this information to the public when this information becomes available. As the recovery of the vehicle is made, it is important to stress that this is the beginning of what is still considered an open and active investigation, with many questions still to be answered. As we continue to investigate this case, we will remain steadfast in our resolve to provide answers and closure to Karen's family.
Mike assessed the car again, then had dive team members from the Elgin Fire Department independently assess the car as well. That way, they could compare what each saw and felt independently. Mike had been diving for a number of years and has extensive experience with underwater recoveries. He, just like Lindsay and Jacob, volunteers his time to help families with this type of situation, and he was just a beast all around. He dove 2 days in a row, did multiple dives on each day, and was in water in the Fox River that was 40 degrees with visibility that was less than 6 inches. Mike was the diver who confirmed Karen's car for the first time in almost 42 years and removed the license plate in those conditions so that we could make a visual confirmation of her car. This was how Mike described Karen's car to us after one of the extensive dives and assessments that he did on March 25th.
On this specific vehicle, it feels like all the windows are intact and up except for one. It's either the back or the back hatch. And I can still see yellow on the vehicle. All 4 wheels are still intact. All 4 wheels are still there. There's a few rust spots on the vehicle where it's rusted through, but all in all, the vehicle is in pretty good shape for being down there for 40-something years.
Once we had double confirmation that all the windows were intact, with the exception of the rear hatch, which was facing downstream, both Matt and I were pretty excited. We felt like that meant the vehicle was very intact. So at least at that point, we had a really good chance of finding human remains inside of Karen's vehicle if they were there.
Mike dove once again and was able to secure an air bladder inside the rear window of the vehicle. So think of like a giant balloon going inside of an object and then you blow it up a little bit. That helped to kind of seal everything inside. Once Jacob and Lindsay inflated it, the bladder covered and sealed that broken window in preparation for our extraction. The vehicle was just over 150 feet west of the shoreline, and so Redmond's Towing had to secure cables using a crane to the vehicle and slowly slide it along the riverbed to pull it out.
Jacob and Lindsay circled with their sonar to check the path we planned to drag the car through. Obviously, we didn't want to drag the car into a piece of concrete or a tree or this pipe or tire or other debris that we had found in our initial search of the area. Once we assessed the path and found that it was clear, we started making preparations to bring Karen's car above the surface for the first time in 42 years. Here's Jacob talking about the extraction plan.
So currently, they're going to go down there with the straps that Redmond's Towing provided for us to go around all 4 tires.
Okay.
Therefore, when we get ready to pull them, those are secure on a tire. The diver can then go back down, readjust the hooks to lift it straight out of the water.
Okay.
But for right now, we're not going to marry all 4 points together. The 2 front tires or the 2 back tires, whichever one they decide, is what's going to go on the tow hook to drag it out.
Okay.
We are going to have
slowly take it across.
Yep, we are going to have a bag inside inflated to make sure the contents stay in the front or the back, whichever window's open. Once we get it over there, then we'll lift it straight out of the water onto the land.
All right, perfect.
Mike took yet another dive into the water and secured the 4 tires along with the Elgin Fire Department. Finally, we were ready to start the slow process of bringing Karen's car to the surface. Andrew coordinated over the radio with our command post to let them know that we were finally ready to go.
David, 25 to wrap. Just make sure they know once they get it close to the wall here, the divers are going to have to go back in and detach and then reattach so they can lift it with the crane.
We spent several tense minutes slowly and methodically sliding the car toward the shoreline. Then, at 2:39 p.m. on March 25th of 2025, Karen's canary yellow 1980 Toyota Celica broke the muddy surface of the Fox River. It was the first time that the car was above the water in 41 years, 11 months, and 9 days.
With the car up and out of the water, our evidence team and drone team went to work. In coordination with the Kane County Coroner's Office, the Elgin Police Department conducted a thorough assessment of the vehicle before having Redmonds lift the car, tarp it, and transport it to the coroner's office for processing. I have to say that during the process of pulling Karen's car out of the Fox River, several of those windows which were initially intact broke, which made us concerned that we may have potentially lost some human remains or other items from inside the car. Mike, being just the absolute best human being that he is, agreed to go back to his vehicle, put on all of his dive equipment, and go back in the water again. He searched the area where we drugged the car and pulled the car out just to make sure we didn't miss anything. I just can't say enough about his help and Chaos Divers' help on this case.
Andrew and I picked up copies of dental records for Karen that we had at the station that were from the original case file and headed to the Kane County Coroner's Office to determine if human remains could be located within the car. We were elated when, within just a few hours of removing Karen's car, Kane County Coroner Dr. Monica Silva advised us that forensic pathologist Dr. Hilary McElligott confirmed that there were human remains inside Karen's car. So, for the second day in a row, we called Susan.
We followed the same procedure as the day before and went out to visit Liz and Gary again. We sat at the kitchen table with Liz sitting next to me and told her we believed that after 42 years, we had finally found her missing daughter, Karen.
You know, I have a hard time explaining just what this experience was like for both of us. I know it is something that I will never forget, and I'm sure that it was something that the family will also never forget. It is something that I have never experienced in my career and may never experience again. But even if we only get to do this one time, it was totally worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Just to be able to tell the family, Liz especially, that after all her hard work, the letters she wrote, the people she talked to, the interviews she gave, all the things the family did up to this point, those things all mattered. Their efforts helped us bring Karen home. They helped keep her case alive, they helped put the limelight on her case, and they helped us finally find Karen. The last step, at least for this part of the investigation, was confirming 100% that the remains we recovered belonged to Karen Sheepers.
Throughout the day on March 26th, I coordinated with the evidence response team from the Elgin Police Department and the Kane County Coroner's Office for an extensive search of Karen's vehicle, while Andrew continued coordinating with the family, uploading videos and pictures for the search, and documenting our last couple days of search efforts. We were able to confirm the VIN number for Karen's car, and late in the afternoon on March 26th, we were able to recover the metal portion of Karen's Sycamore High School class of 1977 tassel, which we believed prior to the search would have been hanging from her rearview mirror. We also recovered a sapphire birthstone ring that Karen wore nearly every day of her adult life, along with other personal effects and clothing. Then, a little after 6 p.m. on March 26th of 2025, we got the news that we had been looking for and that Karen's family had been seeking for almost 42 years. Forensic odontologist Dr. David Wold compared dental records from Karen's dentist to the human remains that we recovered from inside the Toyota Celica. They were a perfect match.
The last thing we did for this search and recovery was make the drive out to Sycamore one more time on March 26th. Liz greeted us like she has every other time we've come and invited us to sit down at the family kitchen table. I think that the words we spoke with her there and the family we will keep between us and the family. But being able to tell them this news was something that neither of us will ever forget. I was reminded of Karen's friend Denise when we sat down with her early on in the investigation, and she told us one thing that stuck in my mind and Matt's mind. She said to us, "She's ready to come home." Next time here on Somebody Knows Something, we're going to be talking to Chaos Divers, the group who was instrumental in locating and successfully recovering Karen's vehicle intact, along with her remains and personal belongings. While we finally brought Karen home, we still have some work to do, and we still have some answers that we want to try to provide for the family. We plan to finish this season with a few more episodes to take our listeners with us as we go through the final steps in this case and circle back with the family and friends who have waited over 4 decades to find Karen and to hear about what this has meant to them. We plan to post a few more episodes as we go through and finalize Karen's case. And then we plan to take a brief break as we review our case file to select another case for Season 2 of Somebody Knows Something.
If you or anyone you know has information about this case or any other cold case in Elgin, please contact the Elgin Police Department cold case email at coldcasetips@elginil.gov or the cold case tip line at 847-289-COLD. You can also review cold case information on the Elgin Police Department's Transparency Hub by going to elginil.gov and navigating to the Elgin Police Department's Transparency Hub, where every cold case homicide and missing persons case is listed with photographs and information about each case.
All right, and we're back here on WRMN 1410 with Detectives Andrew and Matt. Guys, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
For this whole series so far, coming in with Marky B and Sue and talking about every case or every episode so far. And this last one, very emotional. I know myself putting it together, just crying all weekend, just putting everything together and just kind of, thinking back about how the whole process. How would you describe emotionally going from starting to where we are now?
I think it's a little bit of a relief, obviously, like you find something, but I think the minute he came through with the plate without even seeing it yet, I think we both were like, oh my God, I think that's her plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's holding it, it's kind of backwards, like you see it stamped in reverse, and the reverse side was cleaner than the outside because there was no mud on it. And I just remember looking at it and thinking, that's an X, that's a P, like this is her car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost, I don't know that I can really describe, how much of a shock it kind of is. Like you kind of go into it with being cautiously optimistic, thinking we could find something. There's these private property bodies of water we feel pretty good about. There's the Fox River we feel pretty good about. And then we're going to cast a net even wider after that if we don't find anything here. But I think we went into the week thinking there's at least a possibility that this could happen. And you don't want to get your hopes up too much. And then the second it happens, it's just like a whirlwind of, okay, now there's 10 more things we know we need to do here. We need to call this person. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to notify the family. And from an emotional standpoint, I think that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday was just like, we're here 17, 18 hours a day. You go home, you sleep, you come back, and you're just kind of in it. It's taken probably till this next week for it to kind of hit, I think, both of us to be like, this actually happened. I can't believe
Sure.
this actually happened.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I stick in my mind from the podcast is how when you turn the boat around to find the third car, and you mentioned divine intervention or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the universe.
Yeah.
What do you think? What kind of emotions, as far as that side of things, come up? Like, has there been any, I don't know, thinking, any thoughts pop up just in that sense?
Yeah. It is a story that I don't think we ever could have written ourselves, with just how everything was put together. One of Karen's friends, Denise, she had mentioned to us a number of weeks ago when we talked to her that she felt like this was Karen's time. Like, she had a feeling that, she was ready to come home. And I think it was the first or the second night that we went out and visited family, Karen's family. We went out to talk to them, and while we were driving out there, we wanted to be prepared to share any information each night with Liz and the rest of the family, just to tell them one way or another. And we found out after the fact that Liz knew why we were driving out there. She knew. She's like, I know why they're coming here. They found her. So for me, it was just very, very powerful. That I do truly believe that it was not coincidence. We had the right people in the right place at the right time to bring her home when we did. And it was just anything bigger than any of us, truly.
Even some of the friends we were able to talk to, they had lived out of state and they had moved back here within the last couple of years. So just the fact that you had people that were here, Liz and the family are here. They'd lived in Texas for a while before they moved back here. Liz, being 90 years old, is still with us to go through this process.
That's so great.
Just all the different things that kind of came together in terms of, just kind of the perfect scenario of having everybody on board, having the fire department, having the towing company, having the diving company, everyone open to doing this, our chief being open to having this new unit to do this, the community giving us information. It just was kind of a perfect storm of everybody kind of jumping on board with this and helping us go through this process. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it speaks to, a community consciousness and, we're all connected kind of a mentality. And yeah, all that good stuff. And of course, in today's day and age, this might be, feel free to not answer, skirt this question however you'd like, but in today's day and age, there's always going to be the internet comments and commentary and stuff like that. Do you look at that? Do you have any thoughts on what any?
Yes. So we do, because we go through those because we get tips that way. People post things that say like, oh, I worked with Karen, or my grandma lived at this house where Karen lived, or lived next door to Karen, or whatever. And we go through those because we have had people that we have looked at on Facebook and said, hey, that's something we want to follow up on. And then we've reached out to those people either through Facebook or other ways to get that information. The rest of the stuff is just kind of noise. People that say things about the family or try to speak for the family speaks for themselves. And we've known the family for 6 months. We've known these friends and family for 6 months. I think the biggest frustration for me was the focus coming off of Karen and coming on to other things. Those are things that can wait. The biggest positive aspect of this is that Karen was found, Karen came home, Karen's family has, the ability to grieve appropriately now, and hopefully we can give them answers as to what happened. But, you're always going to have keyboard warriors that want to say whatever they want about Matt and I, or about the police department, or about the family. Like, none of that really bothers me unless it's about the family. People say whatever they want about us. We don't really care. It is what it is. That's just kind of the cost of doing business in law enforcement. People are going to have opinions about everything.
Yep. You got to have the tough shell, the exterior.
the thick skin, right?
Yeah, the thick skin. Yeah. So another detail that I love about that came out in this last episode was the items found.
Yes.
So it was the tassel on the graduation and the sapphire ring.
Yeah, Matt was there when those were found. You can probably
we talked earlier just about how having the right people in the right place, at the right time is what brought everything together last week. And I will say again, without Chaos Divers, I don't think we would have recovered some of these items because of their experience and truly their expertise with being able to figure out the best way to get that car out of the water. And we were able to recover, human remains and then obviously personal effects as well. Two of which, Ben, you just described, we were able to give back to the family. So that was a very powerful day to be able to meet again with Karen's family and be able to give those items back to her mom, Liz.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm shocked that we found them still.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly am, but they knew, Chaos Divers knew the right way to be able to get that car out.
And you said like divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, or I said that and we were talking about it. The ring that we found of hers, there was mud and items that fell out of the car as we removed the car, and we took all of that. Our evidence technicians scooped everything that fell out of the car on the ground.
Wow, that was my next question.
That was where we scooped everything up. That's where we found her sapphire ring, as a birthstone ring that she had.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with the family coordinating some stuff while Matt was at the coroner's office, and he had texted me saying, "Hey, we found the tassel," and I had showed it to Karen's sister Susan, and she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you found that. Like, hopefully you find a ring." She wore this sapphire birthstone ring all the time, in her adult life. And 10 minutes later, he texted me with a picture of that ring, and I showed it to her, and she just said, "Oh my God, we were just talking about this, and then here it is that you found that item." So it was just kind of that perfect storm of, we're talking about this item, and then 10 minutes later, we have that. We just found it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And if you could just bring us through that process again, the getting the car up and out, and then I didn't realize that they found stuff after to re-dive in. So if for the people, obviously we just listened to the episode, but
Yeah.
so they filled up the airbag to
Yes.
make sure the contents stayed in,
Yes.
and then getting it to the shoreline. What was that like? What was it like emotionally? Was it nerve-wracking?
Oh, yeah. I think nerve-wracking for sure,
Yes.
because once you knew that we had the car, so, to take some of the listeners along, as we talked about in the last episode, when the car was dived on, all the windows were intact except for what we believe was the rear hatch. So they put the air bladder in, they inflated that to seal off the inside of it. And then during the process of moving the car from the location in the river to the shoreline, 2 of the side windows had broken out. And we didn't know that. I mean, you're dealing with less than 6 inches of visibility, so it's really hard to know that. But as the car was coming out of the water, we saw that, I believe it was the driver's side windows were broken.
And then the windshield popped out.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where the car's been in the water for so long, it just happens. It wasn't like a negligent thing where somebody kicked it or something like that. It's just, from the stress of moving the vehicle, and the condition of it, they just gave way.
I'm sure it was kind of embedded.
And we were a little frustrated because we didn't know if there was something. At that point, we didn't know there was anything in the car. It was still coming out, so we didn't know if that was an opportunity that we missed with items that had fallen out, and then could have, went in the river somewhere, and we just didn't know that. We went to Mike McFerrin, our diver from Chaos Divers, and talk about an amazing human being. After being tired for 2 days of diving, we had asked him if he wouldn't mind going back in the water to check that area, because we made sure that path on dragging it was clear, that there wasn't any logs or concrete or anything that would obstruct the car moving. And he, top-notch man, he went back in the water and did that and checked. And, we do think maybe something was missed, because of the current and just the conditions. But the amount of items that we recovered inside the vehicle and on the shore, like Andrew said, I mean, it's truly remarkable.
I will say, standing on the boat, there was a buoy attached to the car that we could watch as it came across the water.
Okay.
And it's slowly going across the water. And that process was the most nerve-wracking part of the whole thing, because Matt and I are standing on the boat watching it slowly move across, the water, and you're thinking, I hope it stays intact. I hope it stays intact. I hope it stays intact as it comes out. And then as it came out and stuff started kind of spilling out of the car, basically, you go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, let's hope that we're not losing too much stuff here.
Right.
But they did it as quickly and it was the only way we could do it. Yeah. So they did it as quickly and as effectively as we could. And then, like Matt said, Mike was like, I'll go back in. He went back to his vehicle. He put all his gear back on, and he goes back in to make sure we were as thorough as possible. Because if you think about it from like a legal standpoint, like, yes, we want all this evidence in the event that this is a crime. But from a human standpoint, we're talking about a person's human remains potentially. So you want to be respectful to that. and collect as much of that as you possibly can, not only for the family, but for Karen herself. Like that's the right thing to do, is to make sure that you're as thorough as humanly possible in collecting what you're collecting. Cause that's just the best thing to do for a person. Like she's a person. You want to make sure we do that the right way.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, to just bring it back to kind of a general question here, the day that we recorded this last episode, we were talking about the condition of the car and just how remarkably well it was kept. Can you kind of speak on that?
Yeah, out of the 3 vehicles that we found last week, hers was the best conditioned car
By far.
Yeah, and it wasn't even close. Yeah, the condition. I mean, there was still yellow paint on the vehicle. Yeah. We knew that there was a red X and stripe on the sides of the vehicle. You could still see that. When I was at the coroner's office, we wanted to confirm that it actually was her car, right? We obviously had a really good feeling about it, but there's confirmation that we had, so we recovered the VIN, clear as day on the vehicle. I think of it like a time capsule, right? Like just looking at her car, it was very dirty and very muddy, but like parts of the vehicle were still in pristine condition. And it's just eerie. You could see some of the stickers from inside the engine bay and stuff like that were still there. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, just remarkable all around. And just I want to say personally, thank you guys for just doing the best job possible on this. It's really a privilege to be able to work on this podcast. And I'm looking forward to the next episodes and learn a little more about Chaos Divers and just hear about what's going on moving forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate you too.
Thank you.
We could not have done the podcast without WRMN's help and your help.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do that. I don't know how to mix a podcast and all that kind of stuff. Like you guys really made the process very simple for us in terms of going through the episodes and getting everything uploaded and all the different things that technically had to happen in the background.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, we don't have as serious of jobs here, but we do take our craft serious as well. So appreciate that, the kudos. And for anyone listening, Spreaker, you can listen to the podcast commercial free.
Yes.
So go find us on Spreaker, Spreaker. Search Somebody Knows Something, like and subscribe. You'll find us and be able to listen commercial free, just like right there. And we will be back, in 2 weeks?
Yeah, April 14th, I think our next episode will come out that Monday. And I know the Chief's coming on Friday for her normal radio show with Chaos Divers to talk about some more of the case.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again. This is WRMN 1410. That was Somebody Knows Something. I'm Ben. This is Andrew and Matt. And we'll be back in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.